TRPG, also known as tabletop role-playing game, is characterized by the ability to play one's own character in an immersive manner, and within the allowed range of rules, there are various open-ended story developments based on one's actions, achieving different endings. The Cthulhu Running Group is a major category of TRPG. The explorers played by players are just ordinary people, but they want to explore mysterious events, face unknown mythological creatures, and unknown fears. There is only one advice here, that is, the less you know, the longer you live. But Lu Xing just wanted to run a Cthulhu team online because of curiosity, and ended up in the real Kesulu team game by mistake. A group of 655622053, already upgraded to 2,000 people, with ample space, and a second group of 4558411754 welcome everyone to join. Key words of the novel. The real Cthulhu Running Group game has no pop-up window. The real Cthulhu Running Group game TXT complete download. The real Cthulhu Running Group game latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall, There's No Play Again. Lu Xing looked at the text message on his phone, sighed helplessly, then put down his phone and lay on his back in bed, sighing, indeed, studying medicine will ruin a lifetime. Lu Xing, male, 22 years old, graduated from Rongqing University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, unemployed and staying at home. Half a month ago, Lu Xing had a quarrel with the department director. After all, Lu Xing was still young, so he chose to resign in anger. Over the past 2 weeks, Lu Xing has been constantly seeking employment at various hospitals. However, as Lu Xing has just graduated and has limited personal connections, the result of his job search is always, please go home and wait for news. Are you really going home? Lu Xing found his father's phone number in his address book. Lu Xing's family has been practicing medicine for 3 generations and has 3 clinics. At the beginning of Lu Xing's graduation, his father originally wanted him to stay at home and help, but Lu Xing chose to refuse because he didn't want to be fixed in one position at such a young age. He wanted to go out and explore more. Okay, but in the end, I'll give you 5,000 yuan for living expenses. From now on, you can earn money to support yourself, said Lu's father at the time. If you can't make it anymore, just come back to me honestly. You can take over that clinic if you want. Forget it, it's too embarrassing to go back in just over 2 months. Lu Xing thought of this and closed his phone. He knew his father's personality, and going back now would be ridiculed for a lifetime. There is still 1,000 left, which means I will run out of food in at most a month. Lu Xing took out his last possessions from his wallet and looked at the ceiling with melancholy. Sigh, why do you think so much? LOL walked up, it's time to torture a wave of elementary school students and change their mood. Do whatever you say, Lu Xing stood up and turned on the computer. An hour later, Lu Xing threw down his mouse with a displeased expression and looked at the computer in silence. Today is only Monday, so there are so many elementary school students. Lu Xing, who was speechless, closed LOL and planned to watch the new series on Bilibili, the largest website in the country. Grandpa is taking the small round book again. Lu Xing touched his chin and came to a correct conclusion. Forget it, I'll just go flirt with girls in the group. Lu Xing clicked on QQ. Dee. As soon as it went online, a pop-up window occupied most of Lu Xing's screen. I'll go, Sun is so ungrateful, the advertisement has been so big for a long time. Lu Xing was startled by this super large pop-up window. Come and play, get 100,000 renminbi free. Lu Xing looked at the bright red characters in the pop-up window, speechless for a moment. Lu Xing has also seen this type of online game advertisement before. After all, as a middle-aged person born in the 1990s, he has never seen any online game advertising slogans. However, it is still the first time that Lu Xing has seen such advertisements that directly praise the price of 100,000 yuan. Thinking of this, Lu Xing could not help muttering to himself, "This is a little awesome, 100,000 yuan. Okay, just for this advertisement, I will try this advertisement. Anyway, I won't lose if I click it." So, Lu Xing clicked on Join Game under the banner. Ding! After a light noise, Lu Xing's computer turned black. Lu Xing couldn't help but let out a roar. Just as Lu Xing, who was heartbroken about the seeds in his computer, was about to restart it, the computer automatically returned to its original state. However, Lu Xing noticed an additional game icon on the desktop. It's okay. Lu Xing quickly opened a hidden folder, and all the files inside were intact. It seems that it was just the automatic installation of the game. Lu Xing looked at the strange game icon on the desktop, but Lu Xing was somewhat familiar with this icon, which was the head of Cthulhu. Cthulhu is an evil existence in the myth of Cthulhu created by the American novelist Howard Philip Lovecraft, hereinafter referred to as the god of craftsmanship. The head is like an octopus, the face has numerous tentacles, the hands and feet have huge hook claws, and the back has a bat-like leather membrane wing. If you are a Warcraft player, you should be able to contact a boss in the game. Kesulu, which is a tribute to the Cthulhu myth. When Lu Xing first came into contact with the myth of Cthulhu, he was dragged to a board game room by a good friend of his and watched a Cthulhu Running Group. Thinking of this, Lu Xing raised his eyebrows and carefully looked at the title under the game icon, which was indeed what Lu Xing had in mind. Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. In brief, Cthulhu Running Group is a very popular board game in Europe and the United States, but it is different from the domestic popular board games such as Werewolf Killing and Three Kingdoms Killing. Cthulhu Running Group is a role-playing game. The game's feature is that it can play its own role in person and bring various open story development according to the player's actions within the scope of the rules. For example, when you meet an enemy in other games, you can only simply choose to defeat him to continue to advance the plot. In Cthulhu's Running Group game, you can choose to directly avoid the enemy, bribe the enemy, persuade the enemy, or even join the enemy. However, in the Cthulhu team running game, fighting is never the main theme, because generally speaking, fighting is equal to group extinction, because the enemies that the explorers play are mythical creatures. Because the Cthulhu Running Group game is naturally a series of novels based on the great god of craftsmanship, and these novels are collectively called Cthulhu mythology. After the death of the great god of craftsmanship, many authors also wrote the Cthulhu mythology of human nature, and finally let the Cthulhu mythology shape a new myth system. Cthulhu mythology system. Cthulhu, as the front in the myth system, is an important god among the old dominators of a major force in the Cthulhu myth system. It is a symbol of the existence of water in the fire, wind, earth, water faction. Now it is sealed by another group of powerful forces against it. The old gods. Now it sleeps in the underwater city of Lalayet in the South Pacific Ocean. When influenced by the cosmic phase or other external factors, Cthulhu's seal will be automatically released and appear on the sea. However, because the seal has not been completely released, Cthulhu cannot be far away from Lalai. When the astrology changes again and the seal power recovers, Cthulhu will return to Lalai to continue sleeping, and when Cthulhu really releases the seal, the world will be destroyed. From the setting of Cthulhu, it can be seen that Cthulhu is capable of destroying the world, and Cthulhu is not the strongest in Cthulhu's myth system. Moreover, in the setting of Cthulhu's Running Group, Cthulhu can unconditionally kill a random number of players, and Cthulhu's shooting speed is far faster than the players. So when the players encounter Cthulhu, they can basically wait to die. Of course, Cthulhu certainly exists as a boss and will not appear casually. However, there are a variety of mythological creatures under Cthulhu. Even the weakest are ghouls and deep divers. To put it bluntly, they are fish men, but there are differences in some details. However, if the ghouls and deep divers are weak, they are also equivalent to the world's champion and master fighters in terms of fighting ability. Of course, Lu Xing, who was still young and adorable at the time, once asked the friend who led him into the pit that even a master of fighting or a boxing champion could not be easily defeated with a single shot. Lu Xing's friend laughed and told Lu Xing that you had thought too much, because most of the players in the Cthulhu Running Group game played ordinary roles, and the special ones were policemen and detectives. At most, there was only a pistol in their hands, and although Cthulhu Running Group game was highly free, all their behaviors must be within the scope of the rules. For example, as an ordinary person, it is impossible for you to obtain weapons such as submachine guns, nor can you run around with weapons casually. Moreover, ghouls and deep divers have all round attributes that can crush ordinary humans. Therefore, in general, human beings have no chance to defeat these mythological creatures. Of course, there will be some individual cases, because the Cthulhu Running Team game is very free, and some teams will choose to set some rules, such as adding some exotic skills. The specific forms of Cthulhu Run Group game can be divided into DO and Net Group. Of course, DO means that players can play together in real life, while Net Group means that they can play online through communication applications such as QQ and related tools. In addition, Cthulhu Run Group game requires a lot of time and energy. A Cthulhu Run Group game can be as short as an hour or two, and it can be as long as several years, unlike Werewolf Killing and Three Kingdoms Killing, which can be played in 10 minutes. As a result, there are not many players participating in the domestic Cthulhu Running Group game. And most importantly, the Cthulhu Run Group game does not have a special online platform and mobile applications like the Garu Kill and the Three Kingdoms Kill, which also led many fans of Cthulhu Run Group game to find that they had no suitable place to take their friends to play after their friends succeeded in Amway. Lu Xing was just like that at the beginning, although he wanted to try the Cthulhu Run Group game. However, there has never been a chance to really participate in a Kesulu Running Group game. After all, it is not easy to organize a DO, because participants need to spare several hours at the same time, and there is also an embarrassment of no professional platform for online groups. Now, looking at the Cthulhu Running Group game hall on the computer desktop, Lu Xing couldn't help laughing. Unexpectedly, he came across a platform dedicated to Cthulhu Running Group game, which was really beyond Lu Xing's expectation. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The First Running Team, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The First Running Team, Part 1. After all, the audience of Cthulhu Group game in China is relatively small, so no developer is willing to pay energy and capital to build a platform for Cthulhu Group game, and Cthulhu Group game only requires players to have a piece of paper, a pen, a set of suitable dice, and a mouth to play, so there are no internal purchases, so no profit, no early rise. There has never been a special network platform for Cthulhu Running Group games, because the network group of Cthulhu Running Group games uses communication tools such as QQ as a carrier, or it is the only website running group platform in China. Duo Frozen Tofu. Now, Lu Xing is surprised to see a special Cthulhu Running Group game platform. After all, it is also a dream of Cthulhu Running Group game fans in China. So Lu Xing took a look at the time in the lower right corner of the computer, but it was only about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. There was enough time for Lu Xing to run a group with a relatively short process. Therefore, Lu Xing, with a certain selfishness, planned to wait for himself to try out the Cthulhu Running Group game hall first, and then recommend the Cthulhu Running Group game hall to his friends. After all, if the Cthulhu Running Group game hall is a platform for killing fathers, Lu Xing's premature publicity will definitely be sprayed. Therefore, Lu Xing was very interested in opening the icon on the computer desktop, and a black hole suddenly appeared in the middle of the computer screen, from which a head portrait of President Cthulhu, the nickname of Cthulhu lovers, emerged. Good old-fashioned tricks. Lu Xing, who had already made psychological preparations, could not help but complain roast. Then there is a registration page, and only Lu Xing needs to fill in his identity information and phone number. Do we not need to set an account password for this? Or is it simply binding and logging in with the Pain Express account? Although Lu Xing had many questions, he still truthfully filled in his information. After all, Lu Xing was too lazy to think of some false information. Successful registration. Welcome to join the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. President Ku's head changed into a bloody text, and then disappeared. The special effects were done well. Lu Xing nodded and became more interested in the game hall, or in the people who run the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall, because in Lu Xing's opinion, the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall is all about losing money. The black hole in the middle of the computer did not disappear with President Ku's head, but spread to the whole screen. Then, the interface of Cthulhu's Running Group Game Hall finally appeared. The borders around the Game Hall of Cthulhu Running Group are the symbolic forgiveness tentacles of President Cthulhu, and there are also 1 or 2 bones in the middle, which makes Lu Xing feel a sense of imperceptibility. Please enter your game ID. At this moment, a young woman's electronic synthesizer suddenly sounded, and the interface of the game hall automatically switched to the personal center. I'll use my old ID. Lu Xing has difficulty naming, so all of his game IDs are basically the same. Welcome to join the game as an old Chinese medicine practitioner. Please receive your beginner gift package. That's right, Lu Xing's game ID is Old Chinese Medicine, because Lu Xing has been learning traditional Chinese medicine knowledge from his grandfather and grandfather since childhood, so he can still be considered an old Chinese medicine practitioner now. Newcomer gift package, there should be good things inside. Lu Xing directly clicked to open the novice gift package. Congratulations on earning 10 points. Lu Xing stared blankly at the computer screen, unsure of what to say for a moment. You're not mistaken, the beginner gift pack only has 10 points. Lu Xing said incredulously. Suppressing the urge to curse in his heart, Lu Xing opened a store, hoping that these 10 points could buy some good things. Lu Xing looked at the first column of the store and instantly felt how conscientious this game was. Points can be exchanged for RMB, and each point can be exchanged for 10,000 renminbi. No wonder in the previous advertisement, it was said, "Come and play, give away 100,000 renminbi." When Lu Xing saw this, he held on to the idea of having nothing to do and playing. In case it happened, he directly clicked on the option to exchange and exchanged all his 10 points into Chinese yuan. However, at this moment, Lu Xing suddenly felt something was wrong. It seemed that he had not entered his bank card number, so would this exchange be useful? Before Lu Xing could come to his senses, his phone, which was placed aside, began to vibrate. Your bank card transferred 100,000 yuan today. Lu Xing carefully checked the sender and confirmed that this was not a fraudulent SMS. This is really true. Pain Sun is really awesome. Lu Xing remembered that his QQ wallet was bound with a bank card, so Lu Xing thought that the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall should belong to Pain Sun. However, Lu Xing did not notice that an application suddenly appeared on his phone. Now that I have received your money, I still want to see how you are doing in the game hall. Lu Xing, although still a little confused, was happy to put down his mobile phone and prepare to start his first Kesulu tour. I don't know how many people are online in this game hall now, Lu Xing thought as he clicked the start button in the game hall. Lu Xing successfully entered the second-level interface, and found that the second-level interface was directly divided into 4 areas. Ghoul, Hughes, the Hound of Tindalos, Cthulhu, Azados. The 5 levels here clearly correspond to the difficulty levels of beginner, intermediate, advanced, epic, hell, etc., because the ghoul is the lowest level mythological creature, while the shugs are the slave race of the higher race, but through continuous evolution, their combat power has surpassed some ordinary mythological creatures. The Hound of Tindalos belongs to a special type of undead creature. Simply put, the Hound of Tindalos will relentlessly pursue people who have traveled through time, claiming to be the lifelong enemy of travelers. Cthulhu needn't say more, a major god of the old Dominator camp. Azados is the origin of all things in the Cthulhu myth system, and its ability is self-evident. Do we have to enter before we can choose a specific room? Among the 5 areas, only the ghoul area shows as unlocked, and Lu Xing can only choose to open this area. As this is your first time entering the game, you will be automatically added to the beginner's room. It was the electronic synthesizer female voice again, and Lu Xing directly joined a so-called beginner's room. There were a total of 4 positions in the room, and besides him, the other 3 positions were already displayed as ready by players. It seems that this is a 4-person team. If it is a rookie house, the process should not be long. Lu Xing stretched out and clicked prepare. It seems very interesting. My first Kesulu tour should be a good experience. The game is about to start, please be prepared, I hope you can come back alive. It was the electronic synthesizer, but Lu Xing had a strange feeling that this synthesizer had a sense of schadenfreude. How could there be such an illusion? Lu Xing rubbed his nose. Game, start. P.S. I didn't expect to receive recommended tickets so soon. Thank you very much, 12350. Also, please collect them. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. First running team, middle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. First running team, part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. Truth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Truth. The Old Seal is a very wonderful existence in the Cthulhu myth system. In simple terms, the Old Seal has a wonderful effect on most mythological creatures, because in the eyes of these mythological creatures, the Old Seal is actually equivalent to a filthy thing, just like the product of humans' 5-grain reincarnation. However, for most mythological creatures, especially those evil gods, there is no so-called goodwill or malice towards human beings, just like the attitude of human beings towards ants, they are all free to do so. So many evil gods will not attack people who hold the Old Seal in general, because they are afraid of dirty hands. Therefore, Join is called one of the 3 gods in the Cthulhu Running Group game, which can save your life in many cases. Of course, some mythical creatures don't mind dirty hands in some cases, so don't expect Join to be effective against mythical creatures. However, the Old Seal can also form a combination technique with another artifact from the 3 artifact in Cthulhu's Running Team game, but here we will sell a key point first, and wait until Lu Xing gets another artifact. It seems that this talisman is a good thing. Lu Xing took out the talisman with the Old Seal and put it in his suit pocket for any unexpected needs. In the Cthulhu Running Group game, as long as you can get the Old Seal, your survival probability will be much higher. Lu Xing continued to read the text message for a while, but did not find any useful information, so he put away his phone. Although he received an Old Seal, Lu Xing still did not receive much useful information for the side quests, which made him sigh uncontrollably. However, it was still early and he was also idle. Therefore, Lu Xing carefully examined this secret room for the first time. This secret room is about 20 square meters long, with a table surrounded by 4 people in the middle. Behind the million, there is a poster of a beautiful girl warrior, on which many dark red blood stains can be seen. It is somewhat similar to the last photo Lu Xing saw on his mountain and river phone. Therefore, Lu Xing can determine that this secret room is one of the scenes of the massacre at that time. In addition, behind the rootless grass, there is a small cabinet with an old-looking desk calendar placed on it. At this moment, Lu Xing had a bold guess in his heart. Now he felt that he was getting closer and closer to the truth. He only needed to confirm 2 more things and he could complete this beginner's room task. With this in mind, Lu Xing began his own actions. It seems there might be some clues in that cabinet, why don't we open it and take a look? Lu Xing asked the other 3 people. There shouldn't be anything in this cabinet. Rootless Grass frowned and looked at Lu Xing. When Lu Xing saw this situation, he grinned and said, "How can we know without looking?" After Lu Xing finished speaking, he stood up and slowly walked towards the cabinet, feeling that the eyes of the other three were already on him. "What are you all looking at me for? Let's take a look together. What's in this cabinet?" Lu Xing looked at the three of them and said with a smile, while Shan He and others remained silent, just silently looking at Lu Xing. This confirmed Lu Xing's speculation in his heart. Lu Xing walked up to the cabinet and effortlessly opened it, only to find one thing inside. A household registration book. Lu Xing chuckled inwardly that this household registration book was exactly what he wanted to find the most. The task of this beginner's room is really simple. Old Chinese medicine practitioner, please bring the household registration book and let's take a look together. At this moment, Wu Zhenqiao suddenly spoke up, "I am very familiar with this family, and I can verify the authenticity of this household registration book." "Oh," Lu Xing chuckled and picked up the desk calendar to take a closer look. "Maybe you don't need to trouble yourself. The time displayed on the calendar is November 2000. Now, Lu Xian knows that all the clues have been connected and the truth is right in front of him. This side task is really simple, it made me feel a bit overwhelmed." Lu Xing walked back with a smile and sat back in his seat. Lu Xing placed the household registration book on the table, grabbed his hands, and said with a smile, "I don't need to open this household registration book now, do I?" As soon as Lu Xing said this, both Shanhe and Rootless Grass's faces changed, with only Million still bowing their heads. Lu Xing watched their performance with great determination. It seemed that this game had come to an end. "I'm not targeting anyone, it's just that everyone present here is not a living person, right?" Lu Xing pushed his non-existent glasses again and said in a positive tone. Upon hearing this, Shan and he immediately stood up and angrily shouted at Lu Xing, "Who are you talking about? You have the guts to tell me again." The Rootless Grass on one side also stood up and stared fiercely at Lu Xing. But Lu Xing smiled nonchalantly and said, "It seems I'm right. Are you the three ghosts?" After speaking, Lu Xing looked at Million and said with some regret, "Indeed, the cute ones are all boys." Millionaire, who had always lowered his head, raised his head upon hearing this and stared at Lu Xing with a pale face, while the mountains, rivers, and rootless grass on both sides also looked at Lu Xing with a surprised expression. "It seems I'm all right," Lu Xing picked up his household registration book. "This should be your household registration book, take it." At this point, Rootless Grass could only helplessly smile, sit down again, take the household registration book, and calmly say, "How did you know all this?" Lu Xing sat up straight and said with a smile, "Actually, from the very beginning, I felt something was wrong. After the game started, I observed you all and found that you didn't pay much attention to my observation. This was clearly not a normal person's reaction. After all, when faced with strangers' undisguised observation, normal people would react to some extent, while you did not. Secondly, your clothing is a bit too strange, especially Shanhe, who is now indoors and still wearing a hat." Lu Xing pointed to Shanhe's baseball cap. "Later when you showed me the photo, I was still thinking about the meaning of wearing it like this until I had a bold guess. Your strange attire was to cover up the wounds you had when you died, such as Shanhe's head. Are you the deceased in the second photo?" Upon hearing this, Shanhe shook his head helplessly and said, "Did I expose myself?" "No, I was just a little skeptical at that time," Lu Xing continued. "When I really started turning speculation into doubt, it was actually because Million triggered a side quest." Lu Xing stood up and stretched lazily. Generally speaking, no matter what game it is, tasks should be handed over to players by NPCs. However, Million only said one sentence and triggered side quests, which is obviously not quite right. So here, I began to doubt Million's identity is not simple. Million looked up at this moment, and the red necklace on his neck that Lu Xing thought was actually a red bloodstain with this fine stitch on it. Then, when Rootless Grass told me about the massacre that occurred 10 years ago, I found that you all had clues about the massacre, but I didn't. So at first, I thought I hadn't found it myself, so I found a talisman and a phone on my body. Lu Xing said and placed the phone on the table. This is the Nokia 5230, although I don't know its exact manufacturing date. I used it in high school around 2010, so at first I thought my character was set as a down-and-out office worker, still using this old-fashioned phone. Lu Xing continued playing with the phone. When I was preparing to put away my phone, I realized that there was no exact time on it, and there was no specific time mentioned in the text message. When I noticed this issue, I suddenly thought, this time may be of very important information. Lu Xing put down his phone and said to Shan He, at that time, I remembered something. The phone you showed me the photo on was a smartphone, and I didn't pay much attention to it at that time. But when I realized the issue of time, I was thinking, what year is it now? Shan smiled at Lu Xing without speaking. So, at that time, I had 80% certainty that all three of you had problems. Lu Xing said confidently, however, I still have two questions that I haven't solved. One is what year it is now, and the other is the gender of millions, whether it is male or female. Lu Xing looked at the millionaire with a hint of inexplicable regret in his tone. At first, the clues you gave me were probably to mislead me into thinking that the family of three who were exterminated back then were 2 men and 1 woman. However, I still remember Zhen Chao saying that the culprit was a classmate of the youngest son of this family. As the name suggests, the youngest son should have an eldest son, so the family of 3 should all be men. Therefore, the person I think is a girl in the third photo is actually a man. Rootless Grass shook its head and sighed, it seems it's my fault. Lu Xing stood up and walked to the cabinet again. Finally, when I saw this cabinet, I knew I could confirm my thoughts. Lu Xing picked up the table and waved towards the 1,000,003 people. The time on the calendar is 2,000 years, so the time of the massacre can be determined. Lu Xing sat back in his seat holding the calendar. Shan has said that this massacre occurred 10 years ago, so it should be 2010 now. Shanha's smartphone clearly does not belong to this era. The Cthulhu Running Group game is about authenticity, so there are detailed regulations on the items that can appear in each era. Therefore, the smartphone of Shanha cannot appear in 2010 in theory, unless Shanha is from a great pirate clan. So even if my first question is successfully resolved, Lu Xing looked at the household registration book in Wu Zhenkeo's hand and continued, then by the time I received it, your performance had already told me, and my second question was also resolved. Shanha suddenly applauded and said, good reasoning, you've passed the level, old Chinese medicine practitioner. P.S. Thank you very much for the recommended tickets, Momoda. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. First character card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 First character card. Although Lu Xing didn't know why Shanha said that, he still politely chuckled and said, thank you for your praise. However, what Lu Xing did not expect was that at this moment, Shanha suddenly waved his hand, and Lu Xing found that everything around him had turned into nothing, as if there were only himself and Shanha sitting face to face between heaven and earth. Congratulations on your completion of the novice task, old Chinese doctor. I am the head of the ghoul area, Shan He. At this time, Shan He took off his hat and turned into a middle-aged uncle who looked very elegant. However, Lu Xing can be sure that this mountain and river should be a divine creature, because the app of Shan He, that is, the attribute in Cthulhu's running game. Appearance, the human appearance is generally 50, the highest is 99, and the appearance beyond 99 points is a mythical creature, is too high in Lu Xing's view, and obviously beyond the scope of human beings. Lu Xing is just a person who looks at his face, ignoring Shanha's cool transformation just now. Oh, what about my evaluation? Lu Xing didn't think Shanha would do anything to himself after the characters in the novice room ended, so he looked at Shanha and asked with a smile. Congratulations, as you have completed the side quests, the game ended prematurely and you have also received an A-level review with a reward of 50 points and an old seal talisman. Please check it in your personal warehouse after exiting the game, Sean has said in a very formulaic way. After saying these stereotypes, he continued to smile and said, because the highest evaluation of the Rookie Room task is Level A, you have also become the 22nd rookie in the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall to obtain Level A evaluation, so you have a special reward, an additional character card. Lu Xing was delighted. This special reward was really great. After all, according to the setting of Cthulhu's running team game, each character card is equal to 1 life. Now he has 2 character cards, and finally feels that his life is guaranteed. But I have to explain to you first that this character card can only be used in the running group game. That is to say, when you die in the game, you can choose to use this character card to resurrect at any time before the end of the Cthulhu Running Group game. But if you do not use this character card to resurrect before the end of the game, and there are no other character cards, you will also be regarded as dead, and then killed. The following words of he chilled Lu Xing's heart, because the restrictions on this character card can be said to be very serious, and the role of this character card is directly lost by more than half. Because no matter what game it is, the final process of the game must be the most difficult, and according to the consistent urine nature of Cthulhu's running group game, it will definitely make the players face the mythical creatures more or less in the end, so even if Lu Xing is revived at the end of the game, he can only say that he has to die. Speaking of the 21 newcomers with A.level reviews, how are they doing now and have they uninstalled the game? Lu Xing asked curiously. After all, he learned from the past and learned from the future. Lu Xing had to ask his seniors how they are doing now. Upon hearing Lu Xing ask such a question, Shanha chuckled and said with a relaxed tone, they all lost all their character cards due to mission failures, so they were forced to delete their accounts and erase them. Upon hearing this answer, Lu Xing couldn't help but feel uneasy. He didn't expect to unconsciously set up a flag. They all thought they were the protagonists of some kind of novel, relying on themselves to gain an extra life, so they liked waves and then died. Shanha looked at Lu Xing and sneered, which game do you think you will die in? Lu Xing couldn't help feeling a little uneasy as he looked at him like this. He had to grit his head and say, I think I can live to the end. Shanha clearly didn't expect Lu Xing to be able to joke even now, so he showed a little more interest in him. Young man, you have a bright future, and I have a good outlook on you, he said. He came over and patted Lu Xing on the shoulder and said, you can go back to have a rest now. By the way, Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall will charge a little point every day as a maintenance fee, that is to say, you must play the next game within 50 days, otherwise if the points are negative at the beginning of each natural day, the players will still be killed directly. In addition, in every traditional festival, the mall will have special gift bags for sale. There are many good things in the gift bags. You'd better collect 100 points before the tomb sweeping day, which is my personal inside information for you. If Lu Xing remembers correctly, today should be March 20th, which is only about half a month away from Qingming Festival. Now that he has 50 points, he needs to complete at least one team running game before Qingming Festival in order to have the opportunity to accumulate 100 points and exchange them for gifts in Shanhiku. Lu Xing nodded thoughtfully and said, thank you for reminding me. May I ask if you can let me out now? Shanha smiled and waved his hand, and Lu Xing felt a darkness in front of him. When Lu Xing came to his senses, he found himself back in the room. Lu Xingchang breathed a sigh of relief and leaned back in his chair, silently staring at the computer. The computer is still the novice room interface of Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall, but a prompt box pops up in the middle. Congratulations to the old Chinese medicine practitioner for completing the beginner task. Welcome to officially join the family of the Terror Hall. Lu Xing cancelled the prompt box and exited the beginner's room. At this point, the interface is automatically redirected to the character cards interface. Name: Lu Xing. Occupation: Doctor. Education: Graduate. Birthplace: Rongqing, Sichuan Province, China. Gender: Male. Age: 23. Background: TBD, to be determined by the player's first multiplayer team running game, strength. 55 physical fitness. 40 will. 80 lucky. 80 agility. 50 appearance. 70 body shape. 45 intelligence. 85 inspiration. 90 education. 87 Cthulhu myth knowledge. 0 rationality value. 80 HP 8 MP 16 damage reward. None. It is obvious that Lu Xing knows this is the 7th version of the character card, because all the data is multiples of 5, because the attribute judgment of the character card is generally 3d6, i.e. how many 6-sided dice are rolled, and the value of the rolled dice is multiplied by 5 to obtain the value of that attribute. There will also be additional judgments due to different ages, such as Lu Xing's age of 23. Therefore, to enhance the education judgment, only 100-sided dice needs to be rolled. If the result is greater than your current educational value, add 1d10 points to the educational attribute percentage dice. Obviously, Lu Xing passed the educational enhancement judgment, so the educational value increased by 2 or 7 points. In Lu Xing's opinion, the data of this character card can be said to be quite good, except for its relatively weak physique and low damage. Of course, there is one thing that Lu Xing is not satisfied with, which is that his inspiration is too high. Although inspiration can affect players' intelligence collection in the game, in many cases, the higher the inspiration, the easier it is to come into contact with mythical creatures or abnormal phenomena in advance, and at that time, his rationality value will be forcibly deducted. So, inspiration is a double-edged sword. The rational value is determined by will, so the initial value of rational value is equivalent to will. However, at this point, Lu Xing was unable to change the data of this character card on his own. Therefore, he pulled the character card to the skill interface, which showed that Lu Xing's remaining vocational skill points were 348 points, because the doctor's vocational skill points were educational values multiplied by 4. The professional skills of doctors include first aid, other languages, medicine, psychology, biology, pharmacology, as well as any 2 skills related to the doctor's profession, such as psychoanalysis as a psychiatrist. Lu Xing can assign his professional skills to these skills arbitrarily. Of course, in addition to professional skills, Lu Xing also has some interest skills. After all, everyone has some hobbies, and the interest skill point is the value of intelligence multiplied by 2. Therefore, Lu Xing's interest skill point is 170 points, which can be added to any skill he wants. In addition, there is a special attribute in character cards. Credit. Credit is also a very important attribute in the Cthulhu Running Group game, because it will affect the money you can have, the items you can carry, and the initial living environment in the game, and also affect the perception of NPC on you. After all, people will be more willing to listen to the advice of a well-dressed doctor than a ragged beggar. So, it can be said that the higher the credit, the better. However, only professional skill points can be added to the credit, and each profession's credit point has an upper and lower limit. For example, the doctor's credit is 30 to 80, and credit is a mandatory item. Therefore, Lu Xing must put 30 professional skill points on the credit. P.S. This character card is my new car. I'm lucky, because this one involves character cards, so there are many popular science, but it's not detailed. Later, when I have time, I will upload some basic settings of the Cthulhu Running Group to the related works. Of course, you can also go directly to the rule book of the Cthulhu Running Group game. Thank you for your recommendation tickets, and continue to ask for recommendations and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Societies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Societies. After reading his first character card, Lu Xing did not intend to start adding points now to decide his skills. After all, Lu Xing also knew that he was a new player in Cthulhu Running Group game, so it was very likely that some shortcomings would arise if he added points rashly. After all, the skills in Cthulhu Running Group game were all magic skills as long as they were used well. So Lu Xing planned to find a foreign aide to help him improve the skills of this character card. Of course, the foreign aide mentioned by Lu Xing was the friend who took Lu Xing into the pit, and he is now in Rongcheng, and it is only a 10-minute drive from Lu Xing's current residence. Lu Xing temporarily forgot about his first character card and chose to enter his personal warehouse to see his additional rewards, the character card that was restricted in use. The interface of the personal warehouse is very simple, with the top displaying Lu Xing's current points .50 points. Below the displayed points is a common storage compartment in online games, which contains Lu Xing's talisman with an old seal and an inactive character card. Lu Xing first looked at the talisman with the old seal. After all, the old seal still had magical effects when used to deal with some lower-level mythological creatures. At least in the game of the ghoul area, Lu Xing felt that this talisman with the old seal could save his life. The amulet with old seal, low quality, is made by a human who has certain knowledge of Cthulhu myth. Its ability is limited. Please do not have too high expectations. This amulet can be concretized into the real world by paying a slight point price. It can be exchanged for the real world. Lu Xing was stunned when he saw here, suddenly felt the surrounding air became gloomy, and even felt the call of Cthulhu from afar. Although Kesulu was sealed in the sea, sometimes Kesulu can communicate with the outside world through telepathy. Cthulhu will make people have nightmares, or have forced thinking, strong hints and other effects through these feelings. Sometimes Kesulu will teach others some magic skills or some knowledge that ordinary people cannot understand through the form of spiritual teaching, but because Kesulu is far from the spiritual level of human beings, sometimes people who have brain contact with Kesulu will directly become dementia or crazy. Is there really a mythological creature in the real world? Since such surreal game platforms as Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall can exist, it is not normal that there are several mythological creatures in the real world. Lu Xing comforted himself so much. However, to be on the safe side, Lu Xing gritted his teeth and spent some points to redeem the talisman with the old seal. After carefully placing the talisman in his wallet, he finally felt quite at ease. After finishing all this work, Lu Xing wanted to open his mobile phone to see if anyone had found him during the period when he entered the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. As soon as he unlocked his mobile phone, Lu Xing saw the message of receipt of the previous bank card. Seeing this text message, Lu Xing thought of the 100,000 yuan that had just been received on his bank card. This 100,000 yuan can be considered Lu Xing's life-buying money. Oh, forget it, it's also my good luck. I found a good job, got a gift of 100,000 yuan upon joining, and earned 500,000 yuan after completing a business, Lu Xing chuckled to himself. Now Lu Xing still has 50 points, which is enough for him to stay in the real world for more than a month. Therefore, Lu Xing doesn't want to enter the terror hall again so early. After all, no one will actively go to die. After turning off the computer, Lu Xing thought about whether he should go home and leave some last words. After all, the death rate of Cthulhu's Running Group game has always been high. Lu Xing felt that even if he died in the next running group, he would not be surprised. Don't go home, or you'll show your horse's leg. On second thought, Lu Xing gave up the idea of going home, because he was afraid that he would leak his tongue and tell Cthulhu about the game hall. Then he would have a lot of fun. Lu Xing glanced at his phone and realized that it was getting late. He took a shower and then went to sleep under his head, which can be considered a typical ostrich mentality. The next morning, at exactly 10 o'clock. Lu Xing vaguely opened the computer, and the icon of Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall was still there. It's really not a dream, Lu Xing said helplessly, patting his face twice. Lu Xing tried to delete the game, but he couldn't find the installation program of the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. Lu Xing had to give up the struggle. After all, Lu Xing felt that even if he deleted the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall, it would be useless. Take it as it comes. Lu Xing took out his phone and prepared to find a few friends to chat about life and change his mood. Lu Xing suddenly saw that an application was added to his mobile phone. The mobile version of Cthulhu Running Game Hall. Lu Xing feels that he has nothing to say now. Unexpectedly, since the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall has a mobile version, it really keeps pace with the times. Lu Xing clicked on the application and wanted to see what the mobile version has. After a long time of trouble, Lu Xing also found out that the mobile version and the computer version have the same function, but it can facilitate players to start games anytime and anywhere. The biggest benefit for Lu Xing is that the mobile phone will always be full of power and signals, and it has super Wi-Fi. Lu Xing tried, and the network speed reached 10 gigabytes per second. Now I don't have to pay the phone bill. Lu Xing had fun in spite of his pains. It seemed that he could not leave the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall. Lu Xing was about to exit the application when suddenly a private message appeared. Does this game have scammers? Lu Xing doesn't think anyone in this game will know him. Hello, I'm the head of the ghoul area of the family in the game hall of Cthulhu Running Group. If you don't want to fight alone in the terror hall, please join our club. Lu Xing raised his eyebrows. Unexpectedly, could he form a club in the Cthulhu Running Group game? However, Lu Xing also remembered that there were many secret associations in the Cthulhu myth system, specifically developing believers for evil gods. Or rather, it is a sacrifice. There was also a link attached to the information, and after some thought, Lu Xing clicked on it. Although the difficulty of Cthulhu Running Group game will not be reduced due to the excessive number of players, it is better to be organized than not. After all, the personal strength of Cthulhu Running Group game has been suppressed too low. Lu Xing clicked on the link in the information and was automatically redirected to the club interface. In the club interface, due to Lu Xing's own level, he could only view the clubs in the ghoul area. However, Lu Xing was still in the ghoul area and quickly found the ghoul branch of the family, because there were only 12 guilds in the ghoul area, and the first place was the ghoul branch of the family. It seems that this family has some strength, and it seems quite suitable for a talented newcomer like me. Lu Xing touched his chin and clicked to join. Ding, you have joined the ghostly branch of the family. The interface displayed on the computer changed and entered a QQ group-like interface. Welcome newcomers. At this moment, an administrator with the ID of Poison Tumor sent a welcome message. Lu Xing politely replied, "Hello, I am a newcomer who has just completed the beginner task." Lu Xing glanced at the directory of the club members and found that there were over 500 people in total, but only 2 or 3 of them were online. But think about it, who will hang up in this Cthulhu Running Group game platform when they are idle? Oh, there are over 100 people in this group who have just completed beginner tasks, and it is highly likely that you will join the same game. So when you want to start the second game, let's say it in the group so that everyone can take care of each other. Venom said in a long string. Oh, Lu Xing's eyes lit up. After all, a teammate who is willing to cooperate is more useful than anything else. That's good, I hope you can advance to the next region as soon as possible. There is no branch of our family there, said Venom, and he went offline directly. P.S. Thank you very much for your support. Please recommend and collect. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Determining Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Determining Skills. Lu Xingjian doesn't have any helpful information in the club either. The announcements all mention that on a certain day of a month, those club members will play games, and they have agreed on the time when everyone will play game matches simultaneously. After a brief browse, Lu Xing turned off his mobile phone and was ready to go out to find the friend who had brought him into the pit of Cthulhu's Running Group. Lu Xing's friend's name is Wu Lei, who is also a local of Rongqing. Like Lu Xing, they are both students of Rongqing University of Traditional Chinese Medicine and also classmates who share the same dormitory. Therefore, Lu Xing's relationship with Wu Lei has always been good. However, after his internship, Wu Lei did not choose to continue working in the hospital. Instead, he opened a board game shop and became a small boss. Coincidentally, Lu Xing's current residence is about 10 minutes away from Wu Lei's board game store, so Lu Xing often goes to Wu Lei's board game store to play, grab some tea and dim sum, chat with Wu Lei and brag. Of course, Lu Xing will also watch Wu Lei run a Cthulhu tour with others online. And this time, Lu Xing hopes that Wu Lei can help him determine the skill point allocation of the character card. After all, Wu Lei's ability in this area is more than a star and a half higher than himself. So, Lu Xing arrived at the board game store opened by Wu Lei, who was tidying up the storefront. After all, a board game store is like a restaurant, giving customers a feeling of being at home. Therefore, Wu Lei has to tidy up the store 3 times a day. For example, now Wu Lei has just opened the door and is ready to tidy up before officially opening the store. Lu Xing walked into the storefront and casually greeted Wu Lei, then consciously picked up a cloth and began helping Wu Lei clean up. After a moment, the board game store was cleaned up. Wu Lei opened the freezer and handed Lu Xing a can of cola, saying with a smile, "Lu Xing, how are the interview results these past few days? What else can we do? For college graduates like me, which hospital would accept them? Nowadays, these broken hospitals only accept graduate students." Lu Xing took cola and sighed helplessly. If he can pass the interview, Lu Xing feels that he will not join the damn Cthulhu Running Group game hall. Wu Lei was already prepared for Lu Xing's answer. After all, Wu Lei, like Lu Xing, went to interview several hospitals at the end of his internship, but none of them were successful. That's why he chose to open a board game store and didn't want to be angry with others. So what are you planning to do? Are you planning to go home? Wu Lei knew that Lu Xing's home also had a clinic, so he thought Lu Xing was planning to say goodbye to him today. Lu Xing took a sip of cola and shook his head. No, I didn't plan to just go home in such a miserable situation. I have a friend who found me an online part-time job with a decent income and can support myself. Online part-time jobs, is that reliable? Don't encounter scammers. Wu Lei looked at Lu Xing with a caring and foolish gaze. Lu Xing raised his eyebrows and said, "What do you mean, Wu Lei? How could I Lu Xing be so easily fooled, and they have already paid the first month's salary over there?" Wu Lei smiled and shrugged his shoulders before moving the sign to the door. "That's good. If you don't have enough living expenses, remember to let me know. Although my board game store is quite small, my income is still quite considerable. It's not a problem to take care of you, kid. Get lost, young master. I'm not someone like you who can care about. By the way, I came to see you today and I have some serious matters to attend to. Didn't I just come up with a character card on my whim? Can you help me allocate skill points?" Lu Xing laughed and cursed as he took out a piece of paper with the attributes of Lu Xing's character card written on it. Wu Lei looked at Lu Xing with some surprise and said, "What, your kid finally got the character card out? Bring it to me and show it." Wu Lei can be said to have run a team with Cthulhu who has been Amway with Lu Xing for about 3 years, but Lu Xing has always used various excuses to simply not get his character card out, and without the character card, he cannot run a team with Cthulhu. Therefore, Wu Lei has talked about it with Lu Xing in recent years. He has been urging Lu Xing to get the character card out quickly, so that Wu Lei, an old driver, can take Lu Xing to join the Cthulhu tour. Wu Lei took Lu Xing's character card and said, "Are you sure you didn't write data casually? These attributes are quite good." Lu Xing rolled his eyes and said in a somewhat speechless voice, "You are slandering my personality. I remember someone who rolled a few more dice when getting on a character card in an online group. That was a few days ago when Lu Xing came to watch Wu Lei run the online team. Wu Lei was very dissatisfied with a certain attribute of his character card, so he rolled 2 more dice to get a satisfactory value. He also claimed in the online team that he had only rolled once. Because of the strong randomness of the game background, perhaps your last group was in the Beacon State in 1920, most of the original Cthulhu mythology took place in this period, and the next group was in the island state in the 21st century, because many online videos about Cthulhu Running Group came from the island state's end stations. So many of the original modern scripts in China will be set in the island state. The time span is too great, so basically players will be required to make a new character card, and the group is not as mutually supervised as in reality, so many people will choose to roll dice to determine the attribute value. Cheating: always roll dice until there is a value that satisfies you. The author will do this occasionally, occasionally. Wu Lei was told by Lu Xing that blush, and he muttered something about throwing more dice on the character card of the netball car, which is not cheating. After a while, Lu Xing, under the guidance of Wu Lei, decided on the allocation of skill points for his character card. The first is credit. Lu Xing has given him 50 professional skill points, which is enough to make Lu Xing a rich man in the Cthulhu Running Group game. He has the opportunity to buy some items that low-credit players cannot buy, such as bulletproof clothes, pistols, etc., and can also afford to hire private detectives or bodyguards. Then comes the most important skill of a doctor. First aid, because first aid can treat injured players in battle. Regardless of which game, nannies are indispensable professions. Therefore, when Lu Xing reaches 80 points, it can basically ensure the successful judgment of first aid. Next is medicine, which can diagnose symptoms such as diseases, poisoning, and trauma, and then treat them in non-combat situations. The treatment effect is also better than first aid, so Lu Xing used 78 professional skill points in medicine. At last, Lu Xing added 70 points in psychology and psychoanalysis respectively. Psychology can judge whether a person is lying, which is very important in Cthulhu's team running game. After all, a wrong message is likely to lead to team collapse. Psychoanalysis, on the other hand, is a divine skill that can have the chance to awaken players who have fallen into madness. It should be noted that players who have fallen into madness are often the trigger for team destruction. And Lu Xing's interest and skill points are focused on persuasion at 60 points, investigation at 40 points, and the remaining 70 points on jumping. Yes, Lu Xing points out a leap, which is called a magic skill in the Cthulhu myth system. Persuasion and investigation, as the name suggests, do not need to be introduced too much. These two skills belong to the skills that every player should focus on, and jumping is a very peculiar skill, because jumping can be used as an evasion skill in battles or as a mobile skill in normal exploration, reaching places that ordinary methods cannot reach. P.S. As a transition, this chapter is a bit watery, but the next chapter will start to focus on the main storyline. We will continue to seek collections and recommendations. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Kesulu Sugar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Kesulu Sugar. After determining the skills, Wu Lei said with a satisfied face. How about the skills I assigned to you? Now Lu Xing can be the most important doctor in Cthulhu's running team and be protected by your teammates. Unfortunately, your body size and strength are too low, HP and damage are too low. Basically, you belong to the type of people who will die if you leave alone. However, you now have 50 credits. Basically, at the beginning of the running team, you should try to get some weapons and equipment to make up for the inherent defects of your character card. Lu Xing nodded, and Wu Lei was very right. The advantages and disadvantages of his character card can be said to be equally obvious. The advantage is that Lu Xing can play an indispensable role as a doctor in every Cthulhu team, and also has such important skills as psychoanalysis. Unless in a very urgent situation, Lu Xing will be protected by his teammates, and Lu Xing's disadvantage lies in his low HP and damage. Generally speaking, a round of damage from a ghoul has a chance to instantly kill Lu Xing, which is why Lu Xing used the jump skill. Moreover, Lu Xing's attack can be roughly equal to none. So, Lu Xing's character card has decided that he will be a team-type character, so Lu Xing is also starting to pray, hoping to meet some reliable teammates. Lu Xing chatted with Wu Lei again for a while. Of course, Lu Xing naturally played around the bush and got a lot of personal experience about Cthulhu's team from Wu Lei. As an old driver, Wu Lei naturally benefited Lu Xing a lot. After declining Wu Lei's lunch invitation, Lu Xing returned home, turned on the computer, logged into the Cthulhu Running Group game hall, and then completed the assignment of skill points on the character card. After finishing all of this, Lu Xing fell into contemplation. What should he do these days to die without regrets? After thinking about some things he didn't have, Lu Xing decided to take a stroll around the mall and check his 50 points. No, it's already 49 points now. What kind of items can he buy to save himself a living? The shopping mall in the game hall of Cthulhu Running Group is no different from the shopping malls of other games. At the top are rolling recommended props, and at the bottom are various props and gift bags in the mountain estuary. What delighted Lu Xingxin was that the prices of these gift packages were not expensive, basically ranging from 10 points to around 200 points. However, after reading the introduction of these gift packages, Lu Xing felt that they should be renamed as lucky bags directly, because these gift packages are basically the most common card pools in mobile games nowadays, and players can only draw those props in each card pool, and they do not come with a guarantee. Just like the newbie gift package that Lu Xing is currently struggling with, this gift package can draw more than 50 items, from old print accessories worth 5 points to character cards worth 1,000 points, everything. Lu Xing only needs to pay 20 points to purchase this newbie gift package, and then randomly obtain 2 items. Of course, this newbie gift package can only be purchased once. So theoretically, the lowest return for this beginner's gift package is 2 old printed accessories with a total value of 10 points, which will result in a loss of 10 points. However, according to the introduction of this beginner's gift package, the probability of drawing each item is the same. Therefore, theoretically, the probability of having 2 old printed accessories is extremely low. Therefore, purchasing this beginner's gift package should be a guaranteed profit, unless you are extremely unlucky. Therefore, Lu Xing remembered that his character card was as lucky as 80, so he gritted his teeth and purchased this beginner gift pack. Lu Xing specifically went to wash his hands first, then dug out a plate of mosquito-repellent incense left over from last summer, which can be considered as the bathing and burning incense part. He then devoutly prayed to Mr. Ku, hoping that he could lift his hand today. After all, this is the Cthulhu Running Group game hall. It is always natural to pay a visit to Kesulu. Ding! After a crisp sound, Lu Xing opened the beginner's gift pack. After seeing the 2 props he had drawn, Lu Xing breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that his luck was really good. The first is a bottle of green tea of a certain brand, but the role of this bottle of green tea is to restore the sanity value, and can be used up to 3 times, each time can restore the sanity value of 1d6, and can also have a 50% chance to make the player out of the state of madness. It is definitely the magic medicine in Cthulhu's Running Group game. After all, the sanity value will not recover by itself in general, and only when a player's certain skill exceeds 90 points, according to the setting of Cthulhu's Running Group game. When a certain skill exceeds 90 points, it is equivalent that the player has become a master in this field, which is the same as Mr. Yuan's in the field of hybrid rice. The reward of reason value, or receiving some special means of psychotherapy, and such green tea that can restore reason value anytime and anywhere, is almost equivalent to ensuring your reason value. So, like this bottle of green tea, the listed price in the mall is as high as 200 points. Just by drawing this bottle of green tea, Lu Xing's newbie gift package is earning blood, but another item is even more valuable than this bottle of green tea. Kesulu's sugar. Eating it will have unexpected results. It is worth 999 points. Lu Xing couldn't help but fall into silence, not expecting such an operation. Kesulu hair candy is a homophonic stem. In a song about Cthulhu, there is a sentence, Ia, Cthulhu Fadden, which originally means Cthulhu will live forever. But when it was introduced to China, the cute translator changed the lyrics to Gia, Kesulu hair candy, so the stem of Kesulu hair candy began to spread to the circle of Cthulhu lovers in China. But Lu Xing never thought that even the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall began to play this game. It seems that the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall is not a serious game hall. At least we are also a game hall with a higher destruction rate than the main God Space Group. Can we not sell cuteness? Lu Xing couldn't help but sigh on his forehead. However, the candy that Mr. Ku sent, as seen in the brief introduction, Lu Xing looked bewildered and unsure. Therefore, Lu Xing had to speculate about this candy with the greatest malice. The so-called unexpected result may have turned him into a deep diver, right? Lu Xing thought of this and decided to shelve this kazong, never using it unless absolutely necessary. After all, Lu Xing did not want to inexplicably become a deep diver. After browsing the mall for a while, Lu Xing quit the mall because of his lack of money. However, instead of quitting the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall directly, Lu Xing went to the community interface and flipped up the announcement, because the announcement not only wrote about the players who will start the game one day, but also marked the ability-focused direction of those players. For example, Lu Xing is an auxiliary player. As a result, Lu Xing decided to participate in the Cthulhu Running Group game next time, 10 days later, because on that day there will be 12 fighting club members who will start the game. P.S. Well, it seems that we can only enter the main storyline in the next chapter. Continue to seek collections and recommendations. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 begins. After determining the time to start the next Kesulu Running Group game, Lu Xing found the administrator in the club who had talked to him. Nuzi. Oh, have you decided on the time for the next game? Although it was not a face-to-face conversation, Lu Xing could still feel the surprise of the tumor from the text. Lu Xing touched his head. Of course, he knew why the cancer had such an idea. After all, Cthulhu's Running Group game was playing with his life, and no one knew whether he could survive the next game. Therefore, most players would choose to delay playing the game as long as possible to enjoy their last life. They would not play until the last day. Moreover, Lu Xing also inferred from the announcement of the time when players joined the club that players who passed the novice room mission would generally earn points of around 20 to 25 points. Therefore, Lu Xing believes that there should not be too many players like him who rush to die, or rather a few. As for the 10 points given when registering in the Cthulhu Running Group Game Hall, I'm afraid everyone has chosen to convert them directly into cash. Lu Xing thought of this and replied by typing on the keyboard, well, anyway, Ko always wants me to stay at night until the 3rd. Who dares to keep me until the 5th? Besides, I have to gather money to buy a beginner's gift pack. Lu Xing told a lie here. After all, in the Cthulhu Running Group game, teammates are always between trustworthy and untrustworthy. No one knows whether your teammate will be a crazy believer with a deep hide, or simply a ghoul or a deep diver. In the setting of the Cthulhu myth system, the hybrid of ghouls and deep divers will maintain the human shape before a certain age. So in general, while you maintain a certain trust in your teammates, you must keep an eye out to prevent someone from stabbing you in the back. When Lu Xing was watching Wu Lei's Cthulhu Running Group, he saw Wu Lei's team-mates suddenly attack him more than once, or Wu Lei attacked his team-mates with a sly smile. This is one of Lu Xing's life principles. After all, reality is not a novel, and the Virgin will not live long in this real Cthulhu Running Group game. So, Lu Xing, who had already realized something, naturally kept a watchful eye and would not fully tell others about his situation. Therefore, Lu Xing did not tell Rumen about the fact that he had already purchased a beginner gift package. Sure enough, you directly converted the 10 points you gave at the beginning into cash, but the novice gift package is really a good thing. If you are lucky enough, you can get 2 life-saving props, so if you have enough points, you should buy the novice gift package as soon as possible, and your mentality is very good. In this Cthulhu Running Group game, players with a good attitude generally live longer than those with a negative attitude. I have a statistics here. The survival rate of those players who have waited until the last day or two to start the game is less than 20%, while the survival rate of players like you who play in advance is about 80%, and all the players I have seen who have successfully advanced to the next region have a good mentality like you. A moment later, Rumen sent a long message. Lu Xing naturally agrees with this statement about tumors. After all, they are like cancer patients. Patients who actively receive treatment and have an optimistic attitude will definitely live longer than those who passively wait, eat and die. Alright, I'll add your name to the announcement now. Remember, at 5 p.m. that day, I'll bring you all who are going to participate in the game to a discussion group. You can agree on a secret code in the game. After all, players' names won't be displayed on their heads in this game. You need a suitable secret code to determine each other's identities. Rumen finished speaking, and Lu Xing noticed that his name appeared in the announcement. 10 days later. Lu Xing returned to his residence at 3:00 p.m. In the past 10 days, Lu Xing has also enjoyed himself. After all, Lu Xing now has 100,000 yuan in cash, so Lu Xing first saved 50,000 yuan in the bank card, and Lu Xing's family also knows the password of the bank card. If Lu Xing fails in this Cthulhu team game, his family can also receive the 50,000 yuan compensation. As for the remaining 50,000 yuan, Lu Xing spent all in the past 10 days, which is also a fulfillment of some wishes. The specific process is naturally not humanitarian enough also. After taking a bath, Lu Xing landed in the Cthulhu Running Group game hall in advance, and then entered the club interface. He found that the 18 club members who would participate in the game today had entered the discussion group specially set up by Nuzi. After Lu Xing joined the discussion group, everyone in the group quickly decided on a secret code, which was for one person to proactively ask if the other person's birthday was November 3, 1994. The person being asked would answer that they had type A blood, and in the end, the person asking would say they were Scorpio. After completing this process, even if they found the organization. After confirming the secret code, it was only 4:00, so everyone in the discussion group felt that long-term pain was better than short-term pain, and decided to start the game now. Lu Xing took a deep breath, then clicked the mouse and entered the game matching interface in the ghoul area. 3 seconds later, with a ding sound, Lu Xing felt a flash in his eyes as he was already sitting in a car. Script. Castle Lord difficulty. Simple number of players. 5 background. In the 21st century England, there are still many old and dignified castles, and some old aristocrats still live in these castles. There is an old castle in a small town called Ains, a fictional site, located near Manchester City, England. However, no one in the town has ever seen the lord of the castle except the tavern owner. Character cards used by player's name. Lu Xing occupation. Doctor education. Graduate birthplace. Rongcheng, Sichuan province, China gender. Male age. 23 background. Lu Xing, who comes from a family of traditional Chinese medicine, has been learning about traditional Chinese medicine since childhood. As a result, at a young age, Lu Xing has acquired good medical skills and self-taught psychology in college. Although Lu Xing's physical fitness is somewhat unsatisfactory, he has far superior jumping ability. At the university sports meet, Lu Xing dominated the men's high jump event in the same grade. Contact with this script. Lu Xing, who was interning in the hospital, finally got a 7-day holiday, so Lu Xing, a Manchester United fan, came to Manchester, England to watch the Manchester Derby. After the game, Lu Xing learned from the fans nearby that there was a small town called Ains 30 kilometers west of Manchester, which had an old castle for foreign tourists to watch. However, because the town did not have a passenger line with Manchester, Lu Xing could only take a taxi to Ains town. Character attribute strength. 55 physical fitness. 40 will. 80 lucky. 80 agility. 50 appearance. 70 body shape. 45 intelligence. 85 inspiration. 90 education. 87 Cthulhu myth knowledge. 0 rationality value. 80 HP, 8 MP, 16 damage reward. None skills. First aid 80, medicine 78, psychology 70, psychoanalysis 70, persuasion 60, investigation 60, jumping 70 PS. The protagonist's first multiplayer group outing has officially begun. Congratulations, so I would like to collect and recommend it. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter.